I have said on many previous posts that the true self can never die because it is never born. I've said this in many ways, and what I thought I'd do today is maybe help uh, reframe this both from a philosophical and scientific perspective. Okay, both from a from a scientific and philosophical perspective. The reason most people think they will die or even fear death is they think that matter is the ontological primitive. Matter is where all existence begins, and that consciousness is a emergent property of matter. But they cannot explain consciousness. No scientist, no philosopher right now can explain consciousness if matter is the starting point. Okay, that philosophy, as I've mentioned previously, is called naive realism. So if you assume that matter is fundamental reality, then you also think your body is the real thing. And although it's not even a noun, it's a verb, as I've said many, and it's a experience in consciousness. But if you think your body is fundamental reality, even though it's ever changing, then of course you believe in the idea of death, death of that physical entity that you called a body, even though it wasn't physical, it was a perceptual experience in consciousness, and that too intermittent and changing. But nevertheless, if you identify with this thing, whatever it is, according to you, then this will one day disappear. And so that's the fear of death and also the so called fact of death. But let me now take you through a little bit of a journey. So I've made some bullet points, okay? First bullet point is all experience happens in consciousness, including the experience of the physical body. And the Vedantic and non-dual traditions posit that all experiences, that are perceptions and reality itself, arises within and is fundamentally grounded in consciousness. So consciousness is seen as the primary irreducible ground of being from which all phenomena emerge. This aligns with the idea that consciousness is the container or backdrop, just like the screen on your computer is. This aligns with the idea that consciousness is the container or backdrop in which all experience takes place. Point number one. Point number two, consciousness does not have a form. Both the Vedantic and other non dual views suggest that consciousness, being the fundamental ground of existence, cannot be is formless and non-dual, and therefore cannot be reduced to any particular shape, structure, or physical manifestation. Consciousness is often described as being beyond the limitations of form, shape, and materiality. Not only is often described as that, it is experienced as that when we transcend and we actually practice awareness of the intermittent fluctuations that we call body. Number three, if consciousness doesn't have a form, it doesn't have a border. If consciousness is formless, then it follows that it would also be boundless and without any definite borders or edges. Consciousness then is infinite, unbounded, as a field or as an expanse not confined to any particular location or spatial dimension. Next, point number four, consciousness is outside of space-time. Given that consciousness is formless and borderless, the Vedantic and non-dual traditions conclude that it must exist outside of conventional constraints of space-time. Consciousness is understood to be non-local, transcending the limitations of the physical spatio-temporal realm. That's also an experience. When we transcend, there's no experience of body or mind. There's only experience of boundless awareness. So this leads to an amazing conclusion. All experience, including this, is happening outside of space-time. Since all experience is said to arise within and be grounded in this formless, boundless, and non-local consciousness, the implication is that all of our individual experiences, perceptions, and the entirety of reality are fundamentally occurring outside of the space-time continuum. Our subjective experiences are not confined to the local physical realm, but are rooted in the infinite, eternal, and non dual nature of consciousness itself. We have never left home, and birth and death are perceptual artifacts. Next point. From this perspective, the notions of birth, death, and separation from some primordial home are seen as perceptual artifacts or illusions created by our identification with the limited physical aspects of existence, including what we call the physical body. In reality, if we understand non duality, we have never truly left the infinite, eternal, non dual ground of consciousness, which is our true home and nature. Sorry for the interruptions, but that's life. Arguably, these arguments aim to point to the fundamental unity, boundlessness, and non dual nature of consciousness as the ultimate ground of being from which all experience and reality emerges. This challenges the conventional dualistic understanding of the self, the world, and the nature of existence. So, if you understood everything I said, and if you can experience that boundless nature of your own self, then you will never die because you were never born. Let me know your thoughts. And sorry for all the interruptions. I'm in an ashram in India where every 5 minutes somebody's catering to your needs. And, it's very pure and beautiful. Lots of interruptions.